Hello and welcome to Changing Our Reality. Today we're going to talk about how medicine has changed. Last week we talked about how we contemplate and we ask ourselves why. How this is medicine. This is medicine asking how can we do better? What can we do next? Let's go to when I first lost my eye. I was 7 years old. It was Memorial Day. There were three of us little 7-year-olds running around, and two of us jumped up on this log cabin playhouse. And I was sitting right behind, looking at the back of the head of this one boy, and he dodged his head, and a 12-foot bamboo pole hit me right in the eye. That changed my reality, changed my life. And that's a long story, but let's look at medicine. What was the treatment in 1971 for a 7-year-old that lost their eye? There was nothing. There was do the best you can, whatever you can do. I couldn't play baseball or football, but I did gymnastics. I was a real good gymnast, and that kept me going over the years. But today, in today's world, if someone lost their eye, and this is great, I love this. It makes me feel bad if I wasn't there. But today, if someone lost their eye, they would have a therapist or medical therapy right there before they even left the hospital. They would have different kind of physical therapies, occupational therapies, and children's therapies, learning what happened to them, this trauma, and how they can deal with it. And then now there are so many amazing things that they have come up with, helping people keep their 3D vision in certain ways, even if it's virtual reality. There are so many different ways that the world has changed, that science has changed, that just keeps amazing me. I've learned recently, I've been getting these dizzy spells and I've been getting these headaches I've been getting them most of my life, but no one has figured out why. And I see two neurologists also. And what I'm learning, there's something called binocular rivalry. It's when you have 20/20 vision and your brain is focusing on that 20/20 vision. And then your other eye I could see shadows. I could see light movement in front of my eye. But what I'm learning is this side of the brain is confused. It's trying to get this equal and get that 3D vision, which it will never get. So what have I been doing? It's been over 50 years, but I got an eye patch and I put that over my eye, and all of a sudden things became a little clearer. I mean, I was outside looking at the fall leaves, and wow, everything was so much brighter and clear that I wasn't getting dizzy, lightheaded. That is binocular rivalry. Now, then after I lost my eye, it was just 8 years later. And this is when something happens to a trauma, it might trigger even a genetic disease. I had a genetic disease, Crohn's disease, at 15 years old in the late 1970s. And nobody at that time ever really heard of Crohn's disease. The only treatment for Crohn's disease was prednisone, which is a steroid. And then there's a sulfa. And that's what I was taking. So here I am. I'm having this problem with my eyes, and then I'm having this Crohn's disease, and I'm getting sent off to college, taking handfuls of steroids. So you can imagine my college days didn't go very well. They sucked. I had a lot of fun partying. I did that at college, but my studying did not go real well. And that's as expected, but I wish I did better. And, now I'm feeling sorry for myself. Maybe if I did have that eyes and I learned better in school, maybe I would be better in school and I would have a better education. Now I only have a Chopra Center certified education and perfect health. I'm 500-hour yoga teacher. Oh my gosh, poor me. I'm joking to myself. But now with Crohn's disease, as it grew over the years, when my grandfather first had it, you would have inflamed intestine, good intestine, inflamed intestine, good intestine. And they did surgery on my grandfather. They just cut out that whole part. When I first had surgery, and this was around 1989, I had surgery and they were able to take out different resections, just the scarred tissue, the inflamed tissue. And they still took about a foot and a half of intestine, but we have a lot of intestine, small intestine. And but that builds over time, scar tissue. When scar tissue builds up, you get small blockages. And that's what sent me to the hospital all the time. I'd go to the hospital in pain, doubled over. And what would they give me in the hospital right away? At that time, it was Demerol. Now it's morphine. But whatever narcotic it is, it's like putting a cork up your rear end. And I'm there with a partial blockage. So they keep me in the hospital taking more pain medicine while they're trying to figure out what's going on. And they keep me in the hospital so long they're going to do another surgery. And that happened 3 times, and the 4th time. And then I finally decided I needed to go see something else. And that's when I went to the Chopra Center and learned about meditation, yoga. The mind has more control. And I was learning, and I became aware. I became aware of how that narcotics was no good for me. And as this awareness grew, 50 years later, I'm learning my vision. This is why I'm having dizziness. This is why I remember in elementary school, a teacher, I'd have my head down on the table and he'd come up to me and I wouldn't know what's wrong. And he'd take me down to the nurse's office. And no one ever figured this out. But now I want to, this would be I've had this aortic dissection. I've only have a limited time left, but my list, checklist for my bucket list, if I had one, and I don't, but if I had a bucket list, I would want to see 3-dimensional one more time. I just like to know what it's like. And I was learning today, it is a virtual reality, and there can be expensive. Sometimes I guess if I get a doctor to maybe, okay, insurance might cover some of it, but in an office, they have this set up, and I might be able to actually see what it's like to see in 3 dimensions once again. When I was in high school, I went to one of those 3D movies. They were having it for a high school thing, and they went in, what is it, one color, a red color, and another color on the other side. And I went there and I put those glasses on, and I had my blind eye, or my one eye, and I couldn't do it. And the movie started. I went up to the counter. I asked for my money back, and she's like, "We don't do." And I said, "No, it's because I have one eye. This doesn't work for me." And they did finally give me a refund, I guess. But I would like to see what that's like to see 3 dimensions in my life. I'd like to have someone throw a set of keys at me. I'd like to catch a baseball. That would be nice. I can do it now, but I suck. The last thing I want to talk about is the aorta, the aortic dissection I had. After my aortic dissection, I looked at the website of the UPMC, their web page, and just trying to learn a little bit more about what I had. And all I knew from that was it said 20% of the people who have aortic dissections live past 10 years. 20% of the people live past 10 years that have had an aortic dissection. And I'm on year 13 right now. And I'm doing okay, I guess. But 2 years later, they come up with this more surgeries, better surgeries. They're coming up with these fixing aneurysms through a scope. And that has changed. As surgeries keep getting better, life's going to be getting longer with someone that has an aortic dissection. If they can take care of their blood pressure, take care of all their other health. I have one other friend. He's 1 year ahead of me, 14 years. The longest person I know that has survived an aortic dissection. His name was Robert. He lived for 15 years. But I believe things are going to keep getting better. And as long as we keep getting checked, I'm talking about other people that have had aortic dissections. I think we're going to have long lives ahead of us because most of us are pretty much in past middle age already. But medicine keeps changing. So sometimes we just have to learn patience. And that's why we call us patients when we're in the hospital, because we have to have patience. That's just something I've said over the years. But science is changing, and we have to learn to go with the changes and keep up with the changes. This is the most important part. If I would have freaking looked how medicine was changing with my eye, I would have been able to not wait over 50 years and see a specialist and see a physical therapist, see a regular therapist, and learn more about how to deal with this eye. Maybe, I don't know. Everything is possible. All would have been possible, and everything's going to be possible as long as you look for it. Science keeps looking for it. When I was looking at myself in a depression, kept looking more and more further. I kept asking myself, why am I depressed? I found the reasons why I'm depressed. I said, now what can I do about it? And I learned, we're energy and information. So I had to change the information that was making up my body's energy. So I started to do that. Maybe we just have to go with the flow. And now I'm getting a little antsy here, and I need to do a little meditation. And we're not going to do that online. I'm going to go do this on myself. I want to thank you for being here. We're going to see what we can put together. You all have a good day.